Okay, I thought we would start documenting our 1960 Ranchero project here at Shaw's Garage. And this is where we're at right now. We've had this car for about 6 months. And of course it was just a plain Jane 6-cylinder car. And we're gradually doing some work to it. We've already converted it to 5-bolt suspension. The front, it's not disc brake yet, it is drum brake. I got some spindles and brakes off of a 65 Mustang, and we've already driven it some with them, and they're a huge upgrade over what it had, and it'll be fine for a while. The disc brake conversion from this point on will be really easy since we've already got the major stuff swapped out. And in the back, we've got a Curry 9-inch 31 spline rear end. It's an inch narrower, and the car's already got new leaf springs in the back. Put a new gas tank in it, and it's decent inside. Not perfect, but it's already had carpet put in it. Of course, it's nasty right now where we've been driving it here in the shop, but the carpet was new before we got it. The seat's really decent. It's had a headliner put in it. We'll redo the wind lace and trim and so forth, but pretty clean little car, 3-speed on the column. We've already cut our storage tray, and we're gonna make a flip-up door. And we relocated the battery. That was a lot more work than I thought it would be, but there is a reason for that. So we have the little 170 6-cylinder, and it's a good running little motor. In fact, we've already got a buyer for that. A guy's going to put it in a 62 that he's fixing up for his wife as a daily driver. But we got rid of the battery, and I'm going to cut out this little piece here and smooth it off. I had just a little bit of rust under the battery tray, so we're going to cut that out and smooth that off. And we're also I got rid of the regulator over here, and then that allowed us to put this radiator in. This is a 69 Mustang 3-row for a V8, and with just a little bit of trimming at the bottom, it sits in there very nicely. I did trim off the part of the core support. I don't know if you can see it, but there was a part on the core support that pushes the radiator towards the engine, and we trimmed that off, and that opened up our hole a little bit and let the radiator sit flatter against the core support. And we'll come in and weld some thicker pieces and thread them where we can bolt the radiator in. Not going to do that until I get the V8 in it, just in case I need to scoot the radiator a little bit one way or another. We are going to make plans for air conditioning on the car, so I've got some work to do in front of the radiator to get a condenser mounted, but that's going to be a little further down the road. We are going to cut the fender braces off completely, clean all that up, have an export brace ordered for it to make it a lot easier to be able to remove that and deal with installing the V8 and other cleanup work we've got to do. And then I'm going to make a Monte Carlo bar after the V8's in. We'll make that ourselves. So I've got some heim joints and fix one that'll be adjustable to go across and tie that in. We've already basically put a frame under the car. We took box tubing and laid under the frame rails all the way back, tied into the, I don't know if they call them the torque boxes or whatever, back where the leaf springs or where the front of the leaf springs tie in, and brought that all the way forward. And we're replacing the bottom skin of the front frame horns. They had just a little bit of rust in them, and we replaced those up to the shock towers, and then I've got to do from the shock towers forward. Going to do all of that as we make modifications for the V8. So we'll very quickly be pulling this out. I'll try to document our progress as we go. This is what we're putting in it for the moment. This is an early 5-bolt 289, 63 cast number, I think. It's got a set of Edelbrock aluminum heads. It's got a set of old TRW power forged pop-ups, what we used to call pop-ups. Probably, in all honesty, with these heads, probably 11 and a half to 1 compression. So we're going to put that in there. The 5-bolt should fit nicely. I've got a 5-bolt bell housing that I'm doing some modification on to be able to put a 4-speed or 3-speed, whatever, in it. Most of my 4-speeds and 3-speeds I have both bolt patterns, but I am going to fix it where it has the outer pattern in case I needed to put a transmission in later that didn't have the inner smaller pattern for the stick shift. But we're going to put a 3-speed in it to start with. I've got a good top loader 3-speed here, and we're going to hook the column shifter back up, and this will be a nice little sleeper. And then I'll change it over to 4-speed probably later, or 5-speed, or 3-speed overdrive or something. But anyway, this should be a fun little motor. I've got 2 450 Hollies on it, and I have already run this motor. I had it in a car that I ran on the street a little bit, and it is very streetable. Kind of surprised me really with the twin carbs, and it's got a pretty good little cam in it. It hits a nice hard lick, but it's still somewhat streetable. And we got to change the oil pan. I've got a front sump oil pan for it. So we're gonna run this for a while, and then I may tame it later and put a single 4 intake on it and a milder cam, or I may try to find a low rise 2.4 and put a milder cam. I don't know. We'll see, but it's going to be a lot of fun for a while. We can go ahead and get the swap done. And I think I'm going to be able to modify the 6-cylinder mounts. I've got a set of Falcon Comet side mounts that are correct, and I think I'll be able to trim back most of the 6-cylinder mount and do some drilling, weld a plate, and fix where those will bolt in without having to buy a set of expensive mounts, because they're just metal. I mean, cut and weld, and you can make whatever you want. And then for the transmission support, since we've done a complete tubular frame rails all the way back, I've got a good spot to build a cross member, because these little 3-speeds that were in these cars had a real crazy transmission support, and that's not going to work at all with the bigger 3-speed, 4-speed stuff. So we'll be doing that as we set the motor in and fabricate. So anyway, that's where we're at right now, and I'll just keep documenting this as we go. Okay, we're picking back up on the 60 Ranchero project. It's been a couple days since the last video. I've got a few things changed over on the motor, got it ready to go on. We put a fuel pump on it, and changed the oil pan, and got our accessory brackets, pulleys. Got a set of factory headers that I think are off of a Explorer. Somebody gave them to me a while back, and they look like they might actually work well for this project, with the exception of I've got this one cut off because it was going to hit the clutch pivot ball. So as soon as I get the motor sitting in it and get it in place, then I will re-weld and redirect the back part of that header around it. And I do have this set up. I've got air conditioning brackets built for this side right here, and I've got a sand and rotary compressor that will fit there, just for future use. It's a lot easier to make all those brackets and stuff work out when it's on the engine stand. And then my alternator goes over here, and got the tensioner right there tied up. So anyway, and today we got the front fenders and hood off, and got the engine, transmission, and everything out. So I want to show you kind of what we're working with. Now this car's had a little bit of damage up front right here, both rust and some minor crash damage, I guess, and bent some stuff up here on this front part of the core support. I'm going to be replacing this whole front portion, all of this right here. I'm going to go in with a piece of 2-inch square tubing, and then all of these corners I'm going to cut out and rebuild, and they'll be triangulated, braced, and also repair the front frame horns and get new threaded pieces where the bumper can bolt on properly. But anyway, you can see we've already done our suspension change and got it upgraded to the V8 5-lug, and we've got the same amount of damage over here we're going to repair. These corners really no big deal to replace. And I'm just going to show you what we've already done back here. We've already replaced the bottom part of the frame rail up here, and then this ties into some tubing that runs the entire length of the factory rails, and then it comes across and ties into the torque box back here where the spring goes. You see maybe a little better on this side. I haven't got this side final welded and painted yet, but so that basically ties and makes a solid frame, and it doesn't hang down. I ordered metal that was the correct size, the right width for the existing frame rail. So those two stacked together, that makes a nice strong frame rail. And then right here we tied into the cross member on each side, and then we've got to build our transmission support for the new transmission. I'm not sure where it's going to fall. I'm hoping it's going to be in the general vicinity of this piece here. If not, we can build it off of our new frame rails. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. I'm not going to lower the car and show the engine compartment at this moment. There's not really anything to see, and we've got a lot of cleanup to do there, and some changes to make, and then clean it up and paint it. We'll show you our rear end. It isn't a 9-inch, and it's an inch narrower, and we had a time getting brakes on it. I think these Courier rear ends, they intend for you to put their disc brake setup on them, but I was able to modify a set of 73 Mustang 10-inch drum brakes for the rear, and they work great. So springs have been replaced in this car before I bought it. It had been sitting for a few years since that's been done, but they were like new. And so we got all that put in. Center chunk we've got in it right now is just a 300 open carrier. That was the only 31 spline chunk I had in the shop, and so that's what we're going to start out with, and then we'll come up with something better. So anyway, and then if you've ever seen, this is what a 6-cylinder 3-speed looks like next to a top loader 4-speed, and that's not the transmission we're putting in it, but it'll be the same size. So those things are tiny. Anyway, that's the update for now, and we'll keep adding to the video as we go.